If you have a desire to become a better version of your current self, then this podcast is for you. I share with you helpful thoughts, tips, and stories surrounding fitness and self-improvement which you can apply to your life today. So for those of you that want to take control of your life, to learn, to grow, to become that which you desire most, I am your host, Connor Malone, and this is the pursuit of constant improvement. In today's episode, I'm going to be sharing with you how you can build discipline from the ground up. So if you're somebody who sees yourself as somebody who's maybe lacks discipline, you don't feel as disciplined as you want to be, maybe it's a trait that you really want to build, a skill that you want to develop, this episode is for you. Now, everything that I'm going to explain in today's episode is part of my free discipline guide. Again, it's completely free. So once you've listened to today's episode, if you want to apply any of this, I would highly recommend that you download it. It's free, it's in the description below, and it just gives you a bit of structure to everything I talk about today. Because I'm going to give you all these strategies, all these habits that you can implement to develop your discipline levels, but that PDF will just help explain it in a little bit more structure. So if you enjoyed today's episode, give it a wee download. It's completely free, and it will help you improve your discipline going forward. Because in today's episode, I'm not only going to be explaining how you can improve your discipline, but why it's so important. Because with self-improvement, we're trying to become a type of person that we want to be, live a life that we want to live, and that requires discipline. Because whether you like it or not, we're not always going to want to do the things that we need to do. But that's what discipline is. Discipline is doing the things that we know we need to do even when we don't want to do it. Basically, doing things that we're not comfortable doing. Could be projects that you need to do, could be workouts that you need to do, could be nutrition that you need to follow. Any of these things, discipline helps us do that. You'll never find anybody successful in life that hasn't employed discipline at some point. And what I'm going to go over today is how you can develop discipline, because nobody that's ever achieved anything great has ever done it without discipline. Now, with discipline, I've got a couple of quotes which to me explain the importance of it. Now, Jocko Willink, in the smallest quote ever, says discipline equals freedom. Because to achieve the things that we want in life, as we just mentioned, you need to be disciplined. And as Ryan Holiday puts it, we must master ourselves unless we prefer to be mastered by someone or something else. And I believe that that's what discipline does. So it ties both those quotes together. Discipline gives us freedom so we're not led and mastered by something or someone else. I really believe that that's so important for us to discover earlier on. Another thing I want you to understand is that discipline is a skill. You think of motivation, which two people often get the two confused, discipline and motivation. People say, oh, so-and-so's so successful, they must be so disciplined. It's so motivational. They must be so filled with motivation. No, they're disciplined. Because motivation is a feeling. Discipline is a skill. Skills can be developed, they can be improved. You improve skills by practicing them. Kicking a ball is a skill. How do you improve it? You kick a ball a lot of times for repetition. So very simply, we can become disciplined by practicing discipline. And that's how the Stoics worry, that we practice discipline. And again, we mentioned that discipline is doing things that you necessarily don't want to do at the time. Guess what? That's how you become more disciplined. Now, rather than just leaving you there with that, I'm going to explain strategies and ways that you can do that, how you can actually practice discipline and become more disciplined. Because as I said, it's a skill, and it's a skill that you most likely want to develop, because that's why you're listening to today's episode. Now, there's 3 ways I'm going to talk about today that you can necessarily practice discipline, ways that you can become more disciplined. And that is through physical challenge, which is often one-off events, which a lot of people look at as that is the thing that develops discipline. It can, I'll explain how. Uncomfortable habits, which is essentially doing hard things. I'm going to explain habits and how you can get started with those. Habits that are good to help you develop discipline. And also through something called temperance. Temperance is voluntary self-restraint. And I'm going to explain to you how the ancient Stoics used that to help them become more disciplined. Now, we're going to start off with the idea of physical challenge, because I believe that it's a good idea to have physical challenge in your life. If we have no physical challenge in life, then it is hard to develop discipline. It doesn't necessarily just need to be physical. It could be emotional challenge. It could be a challenge in your career, all these things. With challenge comes growth, comes improvement. So if you find that in your life, you never approach challenges, you'll probably find that you don't get very far and you don't grow and improve very quickly. So this is almost a mindset shift more than anything else. It's to perceive challenges as a good thing. Because people find like, oh God, I've got a difficult period coming up at work, or oh, I've got difficult workouts to do this week. Good. See that as good. See challenge is good, whether that be physical, emotional, any kind of challenge. In fact, you should look to set challenges, which is what I'm going to talk about here. Physical challenges more so, and how you can set them. Because with physical challenges, although in the name it says physical, it is the mind that goes first. So what you can do is, let's say you've signed up to run a 5K, a 10K, or a half marathon, a marathon, or maybe it's a work project that you need to get done. There's a deadline to it. With challenges, you need some element of a deadline. Whatever it happens to be, it could be public speaking, for example. Whatever that challenge is, it is going to be up here that gives out first. Okay, it is not physically you giving out. That is what we need to understand. So when we go through physical challenge, we prepare ourselves for challenges in life. We prepare ourselves to endure. So that's why I believe it's so important to have a physical challenge, not only to change your perception of challenges and how they make you better and not worse, and it's not something to be feared, it's something to embrace, and it's something that you should plan into your life. So if you're looking at your life and you've not got any challenges coming up, think to yourself, what challenge could you set? It could be one of the habits that I speak about today, trying to do that for 10 days in a row, 14 days in a row. It could be signing up for a 10K or a half marathon or even a marathon. I done a challenge last year called the 4x4x48 challenge, which is running 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. And although it was very difficult, it was one of the best things I've ever done, because the amount I learned from it in terms of what my body is able to endure and how it is completely up here, as if you teach your mind and learn that you can push forward and endure, you can go so much further. It was such an important lesson I learned, which I wouldn't have learned if I hadn't embraced that challenge. Public speaking is another one. Like, if you want to become more confident, getting uncomfortable and creating a physical challenge of up and speaking aloud, that's a great way to do it. So these are just a few examples of physical challenges that you can take on and you can learn to endure. And that will help shift your perspective on how challenges actually make you better in life and they aren't something to be avoided. Now, what I'm going to go over next is uncomfortable habits. You'll have heard the term get comfortable being uncomfortable. Why is that? Well, because everything that's worth having or achieving in life is difficult to do. So if you become comfortable, if you become used to doing things that are uncomfortable and are challenging, then you're going to end up getting further in life. You're going to achieve the things you want to achieve. Now, David Goggins, one of the most disciplined people you could ever imagine, he refers to this as callousing the mind. You think of the hands and how if you lift weights or you play golf or a racket sports that you get these calluses in your hand. That is through challenge, really. It's through external forces that harden the skin. And it's the same idea with the mind. The more you expose yourself to stresses as such, the tougher your mind gets. And this is actually backed up by some science. There's an area of the brain called the anterior mid-cortex, which is essentially activated by engaging in behaviours that you don't want to do. So it's known as like this willpower area of the brain, the anterior mid-cortex. And basically, when we do things that we don't want to do, that is when this area of the brain is activated. And it can be improved. You do not physically grow calluses on it. It's a good way to explain it. But it is improved when you do things that are uncomfortable. So if you think of somebody like Goggins, for example, if you compare you to Goggins and you think, oh, he's so much more disciplined than me, I wonder why. Well, it's because for years he's got used to doing things he doesn't want to do. Started in a very small scale and then it pushed up to a big scale. And he's done that for 35 years. And that's why he's so disciplined. And you can do the same thing. You can start to expose yourself to these things that are difficult. And that's how the anterior mid-cortex, that area of your brain, is going to develop. Again, not going to physically callous, but it is going to get better. It's going to grow and improve. So I think it's really important to understand that there are brain adaptations that do happen when we do something physically challenging. Another way that they explained is basically through our lifespan, by regularly doing undesired things that are hard, that is how we develop that area of the brain. That's what Andrew Huberman said when talking about the anterior mid-cortex, going forward from there. Now, that follows up to what can you do to develop that area of the brain, to develop your discipline. And it comes back to what we said in the beginning. We practice discipline by doing these uncomfortable habits, these hard things, these things that challenge us, okay? Now, I'm going to list a few of them here. Studying. Literally, if you don't want to study, if you don't want to do something, but it's going to benefit you in the future, that's practicing discipline. Cold showers. Nobody likes cold showers. It's physically very difficult to do. It's a great way to practice discipline. Everybody has a shower in their home, I hope. and it's something that you can access easy all the time. It's something that you can practice. Getting up early, one of the hardest yet most simple things you can do. Set an alarm and get up on your first alarm. That is one of the best things I've done in improving my discipline, because so few people can do that. Set an alarm early, get up on that first alarm. Starts your day strong. It's a tough thing to do, and it's what Goggins calls armouring the mind. You start off your mind by doing something difficult. You say to yourself you're going to do something. You go out and you do it. That's a good way to practice discipline. So getting up early, that's one of them. On your first alarm makes it even harder. See, intense exercise is always a great one. If it's something you enjoy, that is not going to really improve your discipline. If you're enjoying doing something, then it's not really going to require you to activate that willpower area of the brain, that anterior mid-cortex. Again, that's that area of the brain that activates when we require willpower. If you enjoy it, you're not going to grow and develop that area, so you're not going to become more disciplined. So although I say intense exercise, some people very much enjoy intense exercise. I do. For example, Muay Thai that I go to regularly, I enjoy that. Swimming, on the other hand, I hate. I'm rubbish at it. So what would be more beneficial for me developing discipline? Would be going swimming, not going and hitting pads, something that I enjoy, something that allows me to enter a flow state that I feel comfortable doing. That I feel really uncomfortable doing. So doing things that you do not like, that is practicing discipline. You can do that through intense exercise. It could be one exercise. It could be burpees. Let's say you hate burpees. Saying to yourself, right, I'm going to do 50 burpees every day. Maybe they're miserable for you. I find static holds to be great. Nobody likes planks. Nobody likes wall sits. Right? Literally, I've never met anybody that does. And if they do, they're obviously not doing them hard enough. Like if you do them to the point where your body is literally crumbling and telling you to collapse, you're not going to enjoy doing them. So those are ways that you can do at home. Discipline, you do not need any fancy equipment to practice discipline. It's accessible. You get up on your first alarm. You practice discipline by going in cold showers, by doing exercise that is intense, things that you dislike. That's how you get better. That's how you grow that area of the brain that we spoke about. So these are things that you can do. However, there are things that we cannot do that also improve our discipline. Now, this is known as temperance. Temperance is voluntary self-restraint. So volunteering to not do something. See, let's say you're held back from something, you can't do something like, oh, you can't play football that you like doing because somebody said you can't do it for you, right? That's not voluntary, right? You need to volunteer to not do something. This is one of the best ways to improve your discipline that most people don't think of, because it activates that area of the brain because you require willpower. So what you don't do is just as important as what you do. As strange as that may sound. So again, you can do all these things, practice discipline, do difficult things, but you can also refrain from doing things. That will make you more disciplined. That is what the Stoics called temperance, that voluntary self-restraint. So what can't you do? You can not react and get angry. I spoke about this in one of my latest podcast episodes, about how the Stoics viewed it in terms of life as this training ground. So basically, like what you can do is if somebody's trying to provoke you, make you angry, maybe somebody's been ungrateful and you're getting really angry, by you controlling that, you're restraining yourself. That is requiring willpower, which activates that area in the brain, which you can develop, and it will make you more disciplined. So not losing your rag, that makes you more disciplined if you really focus on it from there. Now, this is a really good quote that basically summarizes that. Don't let anger or frustration control you. Instead, see the world as a training ground and each challenge as an opportunity to practice virtue. In doing so, you find peace and freedom. That is from Marcus Aurelius. And what he's saying there is use challenge as an opportunity to practice virtue. See the world as a training ground. Okay, if you want to become disciplined, the world is your training ground. When people make you angry, people make you upset, controlling your emotions and not letting that control you, that is practicing temperance. That will make you more disciplined. The most disciplined people you ever find are people that can control their emotions. So controlling your emotions, that is voluntary self-restraint. Another thing is fasting, like physically, like with food, not eating for a certain amount of time. Now, you can do it for health reasons if you want. The only time I've ever fasted has been from a discipline perspective. I don't do it for any wee health benefits. It could be something as simple as saying, right, I'm not going to, like, see when you get home from work. You get home from work, you're starving. You're cooking dinner, it's going to be 20 minutes till your dinner's ready. You're like, fucking hell, I'm starving. I'm just going to have a couple of digestives. That's me, by the way. That's what I do. See, rather than me having those digestives, me saying, listen, just hold it for 20 minutes, don't have them. As silly as that sounds, that requires willpower. That is practicing discipline. These small decisions you make will help you become more disciplined. That is temperance. You're practicing voluntary self-restraint. You're restraining yourself from doing something that will make you more disciplined. So see the world not through just things that you do to become more disciplined, but things that you don't do They're just as important for developing discipline. A social media detox, it's a funny word to explain it. Delete your social media apps. One of the best ways to do it. Social media is such an easy thing to get brought into. You sit there, you're lazy as fuck, you're scrolling down things. See, if you delete those apps, you're going to constantly be like, oh, I want to re-download that, I want to see what so-and-so says, I want to see this, whatever. That requires voluntary self-restraint. That requires willpower. Anything that requires willpower and you to restrain yourself is going to help you improve your discipline levels. So I would highly recommend that you go forward with that. Now, I hope you found some value in this episode, because what I have as part of that PDF that I explained, the discipline guide that I built out, I have a challenge on there where you can basically structure everything we spoke about. You can take habits and you can use this challenge to make yourself more disciplined. Now, that will give you a starting position. It will give you things to focus on. It gives you clear intention and a clear plan and a way to make yourself more disciplined. It's great if you're just starting out. So if you don't know what to take from this episode, download that free guide in the description and it will give you some structure as to how you can start to become more disciplined, because you can employ the things that we spoke about, like creating physical challenge in your life, practicing discipline by doing things that you don't want to do, and practicing temperance by restraining yourself from not doing things that you don't want to do. So you can do all of those things and it'll be structured for you down there. So those are the things that I want you to take away from the episode, and you can do that through the free guide in the description below. Now, I'll leave you with a quote, which, as ever, I've said this multiple times because it so well explains life as a whole and this option that we're faced every single day. And it says, we all must suffer one of two things, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. So you can choose to be disciplined and put off doing something that you want to do at the time for something that you want in the future, or you can not do, or you can do the thing that you want to do right now but not get the thing that you want in the future. And what that basically results in is regret. Regret is a heavy substance, it's hard to kick, so discipline can help us reduce regret in our life, which to me is a great goal to have. Discipline is a great thing to try and cultivate, to try and build. It's something that I work on every single day, every single week, and my own pursuit of constant improvement. And I think it's a trait that you should work on, a skill that you should work on too. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. As ever, if you did, remember to rate the podcast on Spotify, or if you're listening on YouTube, either subscribe to my channel or drop a like on the video. I'd really appreciate that. And as ever, any feedback is greatly appreciated. But I hope you have a great day, and I hope you apply some of these lessons in your own pursuit of constant improvement. Thank you for listening.